Remembering the return. Just this past weekend, I found out that my wife has been having an affair with someone from her work. We have been together for 15 years, ever since 18, and this has never been a concern for me. That is until a few months ago, when her behavior changed and our relationship just felt off. In retrospect, I should have known a long time ago after what now seems to be, very obvious behavior. But after some time of this very obvious behavior, she finally admitted that she cheated on me, which later turned into having an affair. I was devastated, and although I spent the entire day trying to make her feel bad but knowing that all I wanted was for things to return the way they were before this happened. But then I found out that she wants to leave, when I didn't immediately say let's break up. This hurt even more, and I have been going through different emotions in what seems like a serious withdrawal. I have been exhibiting all sorts of emotions. Anger when I feel like I'm still being deceived and demanding the full scope of it all, then trying to propose logic with her of why she did it and why she still loves me, and finally willing to do anything for her, but calling in fits of panic because I miss her and just needed to talk to her, but essentially with the hope that she would tell me that she still loves me and wants to work it out. But after reading all of people's experiences, I realized that this is a fairly common reaction and the complete opposite of what I should be doing for any outcome. But I can't help it. I really just want her back, and I might find confidence for an hour or two, only to find myself going back to feelings that I need to keep communicating with her. I guess I feel like, even though she did this to me, I didn't ask for it. I'm sure I was a provoking force, but I just want to forgive her and have her back. It's really a lose-lose situation for the victim of infidelity, since at least she had those experiences and was confident enough to make the decision to do that. Whereas I have to live with it all and move on from the life that I was happy with and that I would have fought and worked for. No, there's no kids, thankfully. She's actually staying at his place. But it's a bit tricky. We are not from the area we live in and don't know too many people, but obviously that still ruins me. I find myself trying to make her comfortable and I can't stop. The affair has been going on since mid-July. At times she feels bad for the state she put me through, but that only seems to happen when I really illustrate the state I am in, which is not good. But if I try and speak to her on a normal level, she gets frustrated very easily. She has said that she's troubled by not feeling as bad as she thought she would. He is not married, in an on-again off-again relationship. The only thing she is offering me at this point is to separate, go to counseling and see where that leads. But for now, she wants to separate for sure. I kind of just want to say forget about it all and just move back to where I have my family and friends, but it's really tough. It has been a literal week from hell, but after seeing all of you pointing out to me just how crazy this all is, it really helped, and I called and told her that this has to end as I can't be held hostage by my care and love for her. I have to love and respect myself. It's so weird how you can talk to a person whom you've spent a huge portion of your life with and all of a sudden, it's like they're lying about everything you say and you have no idea what the truth is anymore. I think that's one of the hardest parts of this, watching someone who you love literally to turn on you. It's the scariest feeling I have ever encountered. I totally see it now. It's really hard to see, but those who have replied have basically already said some of the exact things that have already been admitted and have basically highlighted the things I am thinking that she's doing but hasn't admitted yet. The reason that she told me that she had to separate as of the second that she finally admitted to cheating, affair, is because finally she doesn't have to hide the relationship. She basically traded her admission of it as a way to gain more time with the Well, if I tell him, then I won't have to hide anymore. I can say we are going to separate and I can live with him for the time being. Wow, it's all coming to light now. I'm so happy that I told her that it's over. Yesterday when I decided to tell her that I can't just wait for you to unravel your confusion and that I am making the decision to end this so I no longer have to be subject to you playing with me, I felt better. The nights are the worst times. After I initially told her, I felt good. In fact, I read all of the comments that people posted back to her so she can see how other people see this and then told her that I am moving on. I felt a sense of relief. I wasn't bothering myself about it too much. But as the evening wore on, I found myself in the same place as the previous night. Maybe not as bad, but it wasn't great. I still woke up early and it's the first thing on my mind, so I can't go back to sleep. But I didn't call her, didn't text her, I just forwarded a nice email that I sent to her parents telling them to look after her. She has an odd relationship with them. I know what I am doing, but it's a start and better than previous days. I feel trapped. I want to make her life hell, but am very reluctant. I could tell the people that she works with and that would ruin her career, but what happens then? She might have nowhere to go and ends up coming back, and I don't want that, especially under those circumstances. I could tell Om's on again off again girlfriend, but I'm not sure of the repercussions for me in that. And I only know that it's on again, off again from my WW telling me. She's sleeping at his place, so it can't be too on. I mean, I'm sure it would still have positive effects for me in some way, but I feel trapped by the potential negative ones. The only thing I feel 100% comfortable with doing is to cut off contact and show her that I have moved on, hoping that that makes her feel insecure. But now, it's not even to get her back. I think and hope that she reflects and realizes what a mistake she has done and feels trapped by her decision. I don't know, I just feel like such a loser in this. It's as if when you were a kid, your parents decided to act funny, not come home as much, and you eventually find out they have moved in with another family. This just sucks, and I want her to feel the pain of this. I would tell the people at her work, but I can't, while I live here, because it would make things really tough and she would see it as, why don't you just get it? I have moved on, and I don't think that attitude would benefit me or this process. In the state of California, how fast can I have her served for D papers, and where do I find out how to do that? In regard to telling the people at her work, that would come back and bite me as well. She works in a small office, of which there are 2 teams. YWW is the team leader of one and a newly made second team. Her team and the other, her old team of which she worked under the current team leader, both are given accounts of which they make commission off of by a person who seeks those accounts out and chooses who gets these accounts. The OM is one of 2 of these account finders, and by far the better one. If the other team, and especially the other team leader, would find out, there would obviously be a conflict of interest, and it would be harsh, especially since there is no upper management there or in this city for that matter. It's a juicy option and would feel great. But I would for sure see repercussions of this. I'm sure the affair would end, she would have no place to go, have to move back in, and it would be horrible, and she would just blame me for ruining her life, saying harsh things and making this process a whole lot worse. But still is very tempting, and I toy with it all the time. But yeah, telling the ex could lead to that anyways, and I don't need any sort of altercation that would be bad for me. But I still might. It's a rental that we are both on the lease. Our finances are a bit tricky as well. My parents just gave me some inheritance from my grandparents about 2 weeks ago, and I made sure to get it back, and I don't want to share that with her, which she is cool with. I took it out in a check made out to myself. At this point, she is paying half for everything, rent, utilities, not through communication, but through just paying the bills from the same account, which makes my life easier, especially if I will be moving back home and leaving my job here. It all just sucks. To be honest, at this point I would like to have her served as early as the start of next week. I think it will feel much more real when she gets those docs handed to her by a stranger. Do they say, person's name? Yes, you've been served, or is that just from the movies? At this point, I'm not even sure that I want her back, even though I feel like I do. Like cigarettes, once you stop you really want one, but they're bad for you. But I do want her to feel the bad for what she's done and grasp the complexities and repercussions of her actions. I am going to the courthouse on Monday and will see about starting the process. I just want all this to be over with. She has texted me twice now and I have not replied. I have a friend flying 5 hours to be here and offer support. But this is very hard, and I keep going through different emotions, and it's taking its toll. But right now, I know I have to do the opposite of what feels good. Yesterday I said that I cannot do this anymore and told her I am leaving and ending it. She was on the fence. Just like everybody says, she wasn't willing to change her life, but she wasn't confident enough to give me a definitive no. So after finding this forum and talking to everyone, I told her that I am ending it. We had a civil conversation and talked about what we are going to do for now regarding stuff money, and she ended it saying she would call me tomorrow. Her texts are asking if I am doing okay. There's guilt on her side, but I think she still wants to remain in contact, hence not feeling confident with all that's gone on. I realized last night that of course she's lying about why she's living at his house, even if she kind of believes her lie. She's also, I'm sure, lied about the scope of the affair. Seeing how common this behavior is has really helped understand. I have exposed her. When I found out, I wrote a 10-page letter to her parents telling them everything that went on in fine detail. Unfortunately, that was before I found out she was living there. I did send them another letter last night, telling them that they should be there for her, that she has no really established friends over here. I left out where she was living, for one reason, not to upset the parents too much. She has had a difficult relationship with them, and we were supposed to go home in August, and after she came back from a work trip, start of the affair, and she changed and decided she didn't want to come home and cut off her relationship with them. Big sign, I know, and didn't talk to them at all until 2 days before she finally admitted cheating at the time with someone who doesn't exist. So, I really didn't want to make them anxious being far away and not really having a good relationship of late. The thing is, it's not protecting her. I just don't want to hurt her parents and put them in a bad place. Being that they live so far, she's still their daughter, and I don't want them to go crazy. I know how this feels to be hurt, and I don't want to inflict it on them. I was thinking of maybe just telling them where she is, so they know, because she might not be talking to them. I will think about it. Thoughts. I thought she was different, but when this happens, they're all the same. For instance, when you see a bear, you are supposed to stay calm and walk away slowly. Animals always behave the same way. Same with cheating spouses. Doesn't mean I am taking her back if she wanted to. I am doing a 180 and it's starting to feel good. I know I have a rough road ahead, but I am starting to come to grips with things, and as well seeing this as an opportunity for myself. I know that OM will probably say hit the road. I'm sure this means much more to her than it does him, and then where does she go? Here. I don't want to see her here. 2 days ago I would have kissed her feet if she returned. Right now, I am happy to be apart and getting happier. OM, he's a salesman. He works in their office, a small office with not too many other people in there, especially in regard to dating material. He is in a way playing her. He wept her off her feet, looked out for her, recommended her, did all the right things to make her feel special. For instance, would not be overly social with anybody, but had sort of the office looking up to him, then would open up to her a little bit more than other people. I remember her sort of mentioning something like that. He knew what he was doing. I don't know to what extent he really wants her living there and for how long. I don't see him as someone who really cares deeply about other people, without the obvious example, and wants to build this into something long-term. There is no chance for reconciliation between us. I really don't see that happening whenever this ends. I wish them misery and her a huge amount of guilt that she lives with for the rest of her life. This is really hard. At times I feel good and at others, I don't. This just sucks and is making me curious about who I will end up becoming. Obviously, this has shattered me and I wonder how I will ever trust someone again. This is the worst type of pain, blindsiding, that exists. And I never thought I would be in this situation. I have no idea how to handle it, especially since I am sure she's having a much better time than me and it's hard to find fairness in that. Sorry I rambled a bit, it just came out. I still miss her. I still wonder how in the world this ever happened. Why like this? It's been by far the worst week of my life and I was put here by the person I thought I would be buried next to. Half a year later, I managed to serve her the papers after all. I am happy to inform everyone that the divorce is final and it was quite easy because we didn't have kids. I am still a bit sad about the fact that we are separated, but I'm kind of excited for the future as well. I've been hitting the bars with my buddies, checking out ladies and just having a blast. I didn't get into anything with the girls though, I just really wanted to have a good time with my friends. I still think about my ex from time to time, but I think that's just natural human nature. I know with time, I will move on soon, and I will meet someone better. My comment: I'm glad OP is moving on. I think it is perfectly normal to think about your ex from time to time, but life goes on and time will heal. You guys like this one? Story 2. We've been married for 12 years, no kids though, we're considering having one this coming year. We've got graduate degrees complete after a long slog and we're in our 32nds. So, she took me to a work event and a friend of hers mistook another guy for her boyfriend. I was able to figure that she genuinely thought this other guy, a colleague of my wife's, was romantically involved with my wife. This led to fighting between us when we got home. This has been several months ago now. So, she has been reluctant to talk, but I found out more over time. We also moved, so she is no longer around that guy either at home or at her new job. Her claim all along was that he was a friend who gave her some much-needed attention after her family had some problems. I was busy finishing off my degree and she needed to talk to someone. He was there as someone to talk with and gave her attention, though she admits he eventually turned the talk toward things like her clothes and how he liked certain things about her, which makes me think he had other thoughts than friendship. I've found no texts or emails, calls or anything, but I never had access to her old work email account and she had left before I ever saw it. They also worked together, so I think they talked in person, obviously enough that one lady thought they were a couple. So, my issues are I am having trouble believing her that she had no intentions with him other than to talk. She said at one point it was all about needing someone to talk to, someone to hear what she felt, and that she got too attached accidentally over time, about a year. Then he began to say other things, talking about her clothes and what she should wear, how certain outfits are his favorite, which she admitted to. So, then we talked tonight after fighting over a movie last weekend and a show tonight that made me think of our situation. She says tonight to me, she's in bed now, that she never had any emotional connection to him. It was all that he was an attractive young guy. This doesn't jibe that much with what she said before unless I got it wrong somehow. She was trying to make me feel better and she said this to do that she felt nothing for him but that he was hot and paying attention to her. She said he only once tried to put his hands on her and she stopped him. I think she saw I was upset because she then said he was actually unattractive because he was starting to go bald. So, another issue that bothers me now is she used to talk about him. I mean last year before this happened, just as a goofy young guy she liked having around to go to work events with. So, after all this went on this past year, and I finally became aware of it, I remember that she had stopped talking about him at work, and the times she mentioned him before, that I remember and am sure of, he was no longer there. So, an office retreat, he was the life of the party at last year. She said that story this past year again, she does this, and he wasn't there. So, I feel that's important somehow. So, we're no longer fighting, things have mellowed. She's been a great wife since then. But now I'm having these nagging doubts and also sometimes anger since she's given me a lot of jealousy about stupid things since we've been together. I mean, if a work colleague sends me an email, she gets jealous, that kind of thing. So, what is going on with this, and has anyone seen this before? What is this, and is it a big deal? I should mention that once years ago I got a similar feeling in my gut and it turned out to be an issue, so I'd like to get this resolved, though he's no longer around her. I don't think anything is happening now and I haven't found any evidence that they still talk. He apparently was either with a serious girlfriend or even engaged, and I think he may have just moved on with her right now from what I can gather. I also don't think they meet or anything like that. But part of what is getting to me now is the total silence from him and her, though she said he was some important conversation partner at least at one point. I don't feel I have the whole story at all, not after tonight changed the picture so much. She said all along she needed emotional support and I wasn't there. She didn't want to cause a problem, and then she just got too close. He began to say things to her. But then tonight it shifts to she had no feelings. He was young and hot and she wanted to talk to him. Why shouldn't she? It meant nothing but a chance to enjoy conversation with him. His attention was valuable simply because he was attractive to her and much younger. But yes, I tried to allude to it, and you mention it. I worry it could happen again because this is probably the 2D time this has happened, though the first was 9 or 10 years ago. But I had the same feeling then, and now I'm finding out I was right to feel that way then. She said that she didn't sleep with him, but she would have had things gone on the way they had. She wasn't flippant about this. It took months of arguing and discussing for her to admit this. But yeah, the wrong time, wrong place, and she would have gone home with him, though she changes her story on this too. I'm glad we've moved and she's away from him, but that also keeps me from knowing anything about what went on. I found out, we were fighting, we moved almost right then without ever knowing what went on, which is part of why I'm struggling with it. I've disappointed her before and this happened once before, but I only found out about now. What gets me is that I was feeling this same way then. It was about 10 years ago. I wasn't doing well for her, or maybe it was mutual. A male coworker got close to her and then tried to make it an affair. So yes, it's happened before. I was bothered by her changing her story about what went on after a third party thought they were together, not simply her attraction. We get along well sometimes, but not others. We still fight about it. It mostly stems from the fact that I don't really get straight answers. She definitely seemed like she was ready to end things with me when this was going on, or during the time after I found out, when she was very angry with me about confronting her. She told me because I was very intent on finding out. But what got me was her going from it being an emotional thing all along for months, to her now telling me he was simply hot, young, DTF, and so she wanted his attention for those reasons. Her admitting she would have gone with him under the right circumstances came after I pretty much begged her to tell me the truth for a long time, and we fought a lot. Even now she goes back and forth on it, just as often saying she would never do that to me, which is how she puts it. I think she respects me greatly now and seems terrified of losing me. She was not like that, however, in the aftermath of me finding out, when she pretty much went all out trying to insult me and disrespect me. She was very, very angry for several months that I found out, but not at all at her coworker who spilled the beans or the other guy, so I don't know. It seemed like she was ready to walk, but now it's 180 from that, with her recently asking me to do things in bed to make up for all of it and telling me she wishes I was how I used to be before we met and for a while after. Basically, I used to sleep around a lot, not sure what to make of it, and it's just another aspect of this whole thing that I don't get. But at one point, when I was kissing her rear every day trying to keep her from leaving, she treated me pretty bad. So, she has a lot of remorse, but I just can't get a lot of straight talk from her. The honesty part of it hurts, but is at least her telling me how she really felt, especially last night finally admitting to me that if he wasn't hot, she wouldn't have spoken to him at all, so it wasn't just emotional support or whatever. What's got her into me now is a weird combination of things that I would have assumed 6 months ago would lead to divorce. I'm treating her relatively poorly lately, mostly out of exhaustion with the marriage, and now she's into it, for some reason. I don't get it at all. I also told her my physical history, trying to get her to open up about her own history specifically with this guy, and she is really into that, totally changed how she sees me, so that's what I'm doing differently. I don't know how to keep that up though, so I'm really confused even about that part of things. I didn't get married just to live like this. I truly wanted to be a good husband, and I spent years being one. But I felt like I was on my own in it, and when I found out what she'd been up to from her work friend, she treated me even worse. So now I'm behaving a way that makes me feel awful sometimes. I find my history embarrassing now, and she seems to love it. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and as Breeze noted, this is the kind of thing that pretty much messes with my head. I want to do the right thing. What I don't get is why she wants this. I worked so hard to leave my past behind, do well for us, and now she wants what I was before. I try explaining to her that that guy I was before would have loved her and then dumped her right away anyway. We'd never have lasted. She's worried about being kicked to the curb. I never would have thought of it before, but now she knows she's a 2-time cheater. She says so herself, and she did something similar when we were dating. Not cheating, but suddenly bailing on me. I would have been the most dedicated husband ever if she'd let me stay that way. She didn't know my past because it was truly buried, and I never acted that way. Before her I had countless partners, as in we tried to add them up the other day and I had no idea. Gross, I know. She has basically demanded I do crazy stuff in the bedroom at this point. I mean, she has said she is upset that women in my past got tossed around and I've treated her with kid gloves. She wants a good time from me and I don't know how I feel about it. This is my wife. So, it's not for me to get away with. She is insisting on it, and when I've done things that have challenged her, she complained. I pointed this out last night. She said my job is to ignore her complaints, which seems problematic to me. I'm just flying blind right now in terms of what my marriage is versus what I thought it would be. She has specifically asked me to dominate her and be like I was before, like she assumes I was with all those women. I wasn't one way with all of them, but she has a picture in her head of what she wants. She really asked for it before I told her all this, but now it's a definite thing. I think those other men had given her some of this kind of energy and I was doing the opposite. But now she seems like she's really determined to get me to do those things and really just do what I want. It's a balancing act, like I said in another post here. She gets scared and I back down. Then the next day she tells me to not back down. Burdens on me as usual to figure it out. I don't know what she liked about him. I admit checking over FB and seeing his pictures. I don't get the appeal at all, but I know he's something she liked. It could simply be that she liked that he was young and also was pursuing a married woman. The guy 10 years back was the same way and ended up marrying one of the other women he was sleeping with at the job. But then of course my wife was his same age. I never got to find out if it was true that she shot him down when he put his hands on her. She may not have, for all I know. Because we moved, I just didn't get to do much investigation in terms of figuring out what went on exactly. A few months ago, she said she would call people from work and have them tell me the truth, but to me that would have been both embarrassing and unreliable. Now part of what I've done with her is make clear that I won't deal with this again. So yeah, I admit I told her directly that I would drop her if she does this again. I can't go through this process again, so I told her I didn't want to ever get even a hint of that feeling I get, hyperventilation and anxiety, combined with a lightheadedness, both this time and 10 years ago even when I had no idea why. One thing that helps is that I still get regular offers from women today and had a stalker 2 years ago, turned out to be 2 of them. One thing that has always surprised me is how many women have no concern if a man is married. I admit I thought men were this way but not women, or not as much. But I would hate to start over even if most women have an interest in me and some go above and beyond. So anyway, I feel good in terms of having options and having put my foot down, but I feel bad even having to say this stuff to my wife. I've made clear to her that I'm not 100% on us, that I'm willing to move on if it came to that, and I'd be just fine. I was the guy who was just totally devoted to her from the get-go and she really took advantage of it. She said so herself and admitted that much of what she's done she did because she thought I'd always put up with it. She also always felt that she was the reacher in our marriage, paradoxically given her taking me for granted, and has spent a lot of time trying to prove to herself that she can keep me on a leash. So yes, I agree totally, and yet I feel terrible being married and yet knowing that there is a decent chance I'll cut her loose in the future and be just fine. I've made it very, very clear to her though that if I get even a hint of that feeling that she's cheating again, we're done. Not the dramatic, ongoing attempts to fix things for several months like before, but me confirming what I suspect, even partially, and then me filing the next day. I'm not doing it to be in a hole, though it feels bad, but because I just could never go through this stuff yet again. The real difference between now and before is that I know I can do better. I know I'd be more than fine with someone else or on my own, playing the field like I used to when we first met. She knows this too and has treated me really well since. Update: my head is spinning. She has basically laid it out that she wants me to be what I used to be. I'm just baffled because when we met, I was the one sleeping around a lot, high a lot, parties and all that. I was also 19. I was also a huge jerk and I worked hard to get away from that. Now she wants that jerk back. I've been boring for a long time. It happened over time. For a long time I was a good combination of jerk and go-getter, she says. We talked about a lot of things and she said she wants the old me mixed with my current ambition apparently, wants us to be rich and such. She wants to run a non-profit which I have plenty of experience in addition to my entrepreneurial background. I think I can be more of what she wants. It's the rest that gets me and why I'm back here again. So, she wants to be partners in making all this happen. I get that. I think honestly her model in all this is my dad and stepmom. They're also jerks though. But the truly bizarre thing to me, which I need advice on, is my wife thinks that if it pushes me to be like I was, she is fine with me seeing other women. I feel weird writing that and I don't know how to process it. What does that mean? I assumed immediately it meant she wants to see others. Here's the big admission: she cheated or wants to cheat, but no. She has been 100% transparent in all this and doesn't want any of that. I've been able to verify all but the guy from years back. She means she is actually okay with me seeing other women if I can be safe and not rub her nose in it. She let me know her greatest fear is me leaving her and asked only that I not fall for some other woman, which seems a just out there idea to me. So, I've spent the last few days trying to process this. I thought being cheated on would be the worst thing in the world for a spouse and she's telling me to do it. I don't get it. I work in a field with a ton of young women and many of them don't seem to care if a man is married these days, and my wife knows that. She's always freaked out in the past when one of them even looks at me, despite me never having been interested. And now she's pushing me to do it. Why? Just for some image she wants, or to feel like I control her somehow. I don't understand her right now and I don't know how this is going to turn out for us. I'm really confused. She's saying now she never would have slept with that guy. I've been able to verify that since in what he wrote to her. I guess what she meant was she was in a place where cheating was a real possibility, but never met anyone she would have considered it with. She wants the old me apparently, more than anything. I verified that in what she wrote to her friends around that time, and it jibes with what she said lately. I worry though about what could happen in the future. I worry she doesn't love me if she's willing to let me do something like that, or even think it of me. I don't get the sense that she wants me to do it. I get the sense she feels unprotected somehow and wants the old me back to protect her again. I don't know how it all hangs together, but that's my strong sense now. But I also admit I worry that she'll ask for the same for herself sometime, and the truth will come out that she wants anything physical from some guy or other. I worry also that she could grow to resent me the way I resent her if this stuff keeps up. My comment: I am now going back to the mindset of she really does not know what she wants, other than she does want you to take more control. So, I think you really need to just figure out what it is you want to do, if you don't already know, and then lead her in that direction. If she brings up all of this soap opera crap, just treat it as something humorous and keep doing your thing. The most important thing is to be dominant with her, because she has shown she will stray and develop these wild fantasies when you're not.